Hello tubes, it's Gav. Welcome to another one of my videos. Today it's an update on the Reconnaissance group build, not the ferret this time. If you ever saw my introductory video to the Reconnaissance group build hosted by Joachim and Marcus, Marcus from Scale Bench and Joachim from Yorama Model Bow, I'm doing a 1 in 35 Airfix ferret armoured car. There's nothing to show you until next week on that. But I'd also got these 4 Empress Miniatures 28mm Royal Australian Regiment to show you, or to put into the group build for the theme of Reconnaissance. And I'm still working, they're work in progress. This is just a progress update. I'd almost said to myself I wasn't going to be able to do them because I've been getting on and trying to complete the commission I'm working on at the moment, the AB Napoleonics, and that is now about to, all the regiments about to get the static grass down, so all intents and purposes that's done. So I've been doing a couple of evenings painting these up. If Joachim and Marcus don't mind, I'm also just going to give you a general update on the Vietnam stuff I've got on my bench. These are all for my own collection. These Australians were kindly gifted to me by Steve Sandford in Republic of Ireland. He's a good marra of the channel, and he always has some thoughtful insights. He's also some of the Americans you're about to see, which are only primed. I just wanted to show you what I've got on the bench. Actually, I've just looked, they're all from Steve. I thought the 3 MVA figures that I got were mine, that I bought myself, but no, these were all, it's embarrassing, isn't it? They've all been gifted to me by Steve. Thanks a lot, Steve. This is Royal Australian Regiment. I'm going to link, hopefully if I can remember, a video to a well-known Australian action in Vietnam, which was the Battle of Long Tan, where D Company and with some attached assets, as they would say in modern times, fought off, it's approximately around 2,000 MVA. So I'd like to watch that if possible. It's a cracking one, video documentary. It's very well put together, with some of the guys that were actually there. I've got a couple of books that were written, I believe, in the 80s by Lex Macaulay, an Australian, I believe, and that was. And by the way, New Zealanders were there as well in the form of the battery supporting the D Company, but there's 2 cracking books by Lex Macaulay, and I'd advise you to get that, one on Long Tan and one on the Battle of Coral / Balmoral, which were fire bases, and they took a good pummeling, but managed to resist the human wave attacks of the MVA, which was unusual for Phuoc Toi province. The Australians were using counterinsurgency patrolling tactics, which been developed in Malaya and Borneo Sarawak, along with the British and Rhodesians and and obviously Kiwis, just trying to keep the insurgency down there, and they proved highly successful in doing so. I'd advise you, please go and do honour the I think 17 guys lost their lives at Long Tan, and obviously some were severely wounded, and honour those guys if you just popped along and just learnt a bit about the Battle of Long Tan. So this is just, if any of you saying, well, they're reconnaissance, why, if they're doing a recce, and what, why are they wearing their large packs? I've considered it before. The packs were already on. Some of these were resin packs that Steve had already stuck on, and I think one was a metal pack that was already obviously attached to the sculpt. These are sculpted by Paul Hicks, and I think I mentioned sold through Empress. Well, they're not through. They're figures for Empress Miniature. Who do cracking ranges of figures, and I have no contact to Empress whatsoever. I was going to say I buy these figures, but Steve kindly gifted them to me because he knows I collect stuff on Vietnam. But I have a large collection of, well, for me, it's a large collection because I haven't sold them off. But I've got a growing collection, let's put it that way, for United States Marine Corps in Battlefield. And eventually I'll move into doing the RVent. I'm really hoping, I was told they were going to do air cavalry. I don't mind if it's air cav, that I can just as well use for the rest of the infantry, in the American infantry in Vietnam. So I'd like to get onto those as well. And I'll do some Viet Cong and stuff, and the MVA I'll just do as I go type of thing. So these are all work in progress. He's the only one that's, the flesh is more or less done. I just got to do some touch-ups and whatever. Just looking at that little black, there's a little black line there, or was that? I'm not sure, I'll have to look at that in a bit. As I say, it's wonderful looking through the lens of a video camera. So when you look at the uniforms of the Australians, much like the Americans, much like the MVA, they're quite washed out, obviously. They get a hell of a beating from the weather. And you will see them, you'll see guys wearing, obviously, either they've just come into country or they have been issued a new trousers or shirt, and or even new boonie hat, and they are a lot more like a darker greener, but on the whole they're quite a washed out, greeny grey colour. Obviously the environment that they're in obviously will colour the uniforms. I've put some yellow wood grain from Vallejo on, started that and then stopped because I wanted to get the rest of the webbing and that painted. It was just an experiment really. A lot of these figures, the first ones I do for a particular set are more or less experiments, and these are no different. I'm calling this if you can see it, oh, no, if you can see it because it's not there. All right then, a couple more I'll show you in a minute. I've got ponchos sticking out, and the Aussie poncho was like I'm going to put orange brown or camo, orange camo brown, and then it's just got some like brown spots for the poncho, which can then be used as a shelter quarter. The webbing, they did have some that was like the yellowy colour. I think most of it was based off the British webbing. I might be wrong on that, but I've gone for all green webbing on these guys. As I say, this guy is more or less the flesh is more or less done. Lots still to do. There's some black lining I'll be doing around the webbing straps and that, and I use tyre rubber black for that, and I water it down a fair bit. Don't put, I know it's called black lining, but don't put black lines down because it's really stark, unless that's what you want to do. So yeah, I'll be black lining all this like I do in my American Marines. The highlights on the boots, they are highlights, but they're more just to show a faded look, and I do that using the age-old method of putting some like medium flesh into the black, and I use NATO black on the boots rather than like the jet black, and that's a bit more faded, because these guys wore black leather boots as far as I remember. This is an Owen submachine gun, or known as the Owen gun. It's just had a blue-black one base coat over it so far, and I'll be highlighting those up. I have seen some where they've painted them, and I can't remember now though if that was Malaya or World War II, but they sprayed them up, with camouflage colours. But the ones I've seen recently have been black, so that's what I'm doing. It's the first field dressing that hasn't been painted yet. I just paint it with the overall colour, usually taped on with like black masking tape. As I say, so there'll be a bit of black lining going on, a bit more weathering going on to the webbing fades quite a lot. But what you want to do is you're trying to do it, and it does look different from the uniform in real life. However, you just obviously want a difference. You don't want to be painting it all looking exactly the same. Well, again, I'm not lecturing you. That's up to you what you want to do. I've got to put fingernails on and stuff like that on this guy as well. So his flesh is more or less done. It was just an experiment. To be fair, when these fellas are constantly getting wet, and it is wet and humid in Vietnam, as you all know, and they're in triple canopy, and so I mean I don't think it was triple canopy in Phuk Toy, but I might be wrong on that. It was mainly plantations, I think, rubber plantations from the French colonial era, and they were still being, some of them were still being used as well. But if you are in like doing your Americans, along the DMZ and stuff like that, I wouldn't be surprised when I see a lot of colour photographs. The white guys are fairly pale, because they're not in the sun all the time. A lot of these guys were coming in, literally could be doing a month, 6 weeks, 2 months. I'm not sure, but out in the boonies, this is the Americans coming in for a few days and then back out again. They were in just jungle rotting wet, and shady canopy a lot of the time. So I don't think they always got a sunny complexion. I just decided these are Australians. Obviously Australia is dry heat, so they're already tanned before they get there. So, and I just thought it suited the subject. There you go. This guy's a nice one. He'll be our section commander. I'm probably going to call him a corporal. The rest of the section is, or our recce commander. The rest of the section is back under the lance corporal, setting up an ambush maybe. I got the idea for these from the Battle of Long-Tan, and I remember reading Lex McCauley. I mean, I read Lex McCauley's book. They're falling apart now. They're that old, but they're only paperbacks. But he, or the guys that were obviously telling these accounts, they were saying that they were going into an ambush position and then wrecking, and they've got their packs on because they were mentioning it for different reasons. And I thought, well, I can get along out. I can say that they're wrecking with the packs on and that. You see what the blue black does? It gives you that nice look to the plastic and to blued metal as well on rifle barrels and stuff. Although M16 was a lot lighter than this. I say it's just a base coat at the moment. This guy's got a moustache, I think. I've just put a base coat of flesh on from AK, which is just like an orange beige. Is it beige orange? This I've seen. It's like, I don't know if it was an ID. They started wearing them as an ID, some of the guys, to tell you, because obviously you've got MVA out there with the same type of boonie type green hats on. They didn't all have the pith helmets, and in fact when they were recce and when they first came into contact with the MVA, and at Long-Tan, when one of the patrols was out there from D Company, the sergeant said they weren't 100% for a second if they weren't their own guys, because of the uniform fades the same. They got bush hats on rather than the pith helmets. But yeah, he's a lovely figure. So Paul does some really nice work. I can't recommend him enough, but I can't recommend. I recommend his figures to you that he sculpts for different companies. I always drill out, if I can, the sight stroke carrying handle there, because that was normally solid, and you can do that by hand. I do that just holding a small 0.5 millimeter drill. I don't even put it in a thing, I just hold it. These are the ponchos, I'm calling them, and I'll be painting those. That'll be good because it'll be just a bit different. It won't be green, so that's going to be like an orange brown with some little brown spots on it. Again, lovely figures, all taken from historical photos and newsreel at the time. And this guy's got my favourite rifle, the SLR. It's the one where it's still wooden, 7.62 rifle. So if you think of the Americans' M14 that they gave up after the first year or two of Vietnam for the M16, this is firing. It's still got its wooden stock. We used this right up until like the mid-90s for some of the more rear units, but the infantry was still using the British SLR. By then turned out it had a plastic stock and that on, but fantastic rifle in the sense of when a 7.62 round hits you. I've said it before. You go down. I mean, the British we've got a laughingly expanded defence budget, which is just a joke. We won't go into it, but yeah, our Prime Minister's just announced, like in a fanfare, that we've just got an extended, they've moved our defence budget up, and it just waffle. But we need a new rifle, really, and I wouldn't be surprised if when they finally come up with it, they don't go back to the 7.62 round, because I know that they were having trouble engaging the Afghan Taliban obviously in Afghanistan, and the 7.62 round is a lot more capable than a 5.56. And the Aussies would have they would have different rifles, the M16, the SLR. They would also have obviously the Owen gun was used a lot for radio operators, or signallers as we still call them in the British Army, and sometimes officers, anybody that had got a lot of gear that it was classed that they only needed something lighter for self-protection. So yeah, some lovely, as I say, some of these I can't remember now. I think these are them. I think these are the like resin packs that you could stick on, and it was up to you whether you had them in light order or with a small pack on or large pack. And these were already stuck on by Steve. So the white bits, obviously, it's Ghost Grey, I think it's called, the primer I've used. This is just Vallejo primer. They're towels that they'd often wear around them, keep some of the sweat off them, wipe the faces and stuff. So that's all got to be done yet. Obviously I'll be doing the little press studs on the drinking canteens. Probably put those with some old gold. It's a nice, it's metallic, but it's not that metallic, if that makes sense, because often the paint that was on top of these would be worn off. Same with the buckles and that on the packs. Yeah, lovely figures. So all these haven't, they really are work in progresses, so don't judge them yet. These have got to be weathered and stuff yet. They have had an application of that wood grain on, which is more or less like a dark yellow colour, and it's been applied as well as at early weathering stages. I mean, you don't have to do half of this. It's just Gav does that because they're my figures and I just enjoy working on them. They'll go off. I've sent off yesterday for some 30mm bases. If you remember, I thought I'd bought 3 or 4 packets, and I had. Unfortunately, because I'd used up a load of old 30mm bases in my original United States Marine Corps figures. I only had 3mm deep. I normally put them on 2mm deep. And so obviously to keep them in line with everything else, and of course I put this order in and didn't put 3mm, so I got the wrong depth of bases. It's not the end of the world, but I just want them all on the same. So normally I would stick these on the base already and put some putty round to hide the edges of the actual base it's on, and then paint them, but they'll have to go on. So Vietnamese here, and North Vietnamese Army. They've done really well in scaling them, and they do go into it in case people complain. They are a lot smaller, these guys, than Western guys, but really nice figures. Got the pith helmet on. I didn't bother putting the star on. You usually have that little enamelled star on, because the way I saw it's further down and the buckle was covering it. I really like these. They're very nice. I've done the full weathering that I want to do on these guys. The Aussies and the MVA will all be on like jungly type bases, where the Marines will be on what I call my Hue bases. Obviously, and then we've got some. They often wear those blue and white. Is it Khmer scarves? But really nice chest rigs. I don't know if it was the MVA, or whether it came from China, but they really pioneered these chest rigs that everybody wears today. So that these are all done. The flesh. When I looked at Vietnamese colour photographs, especially by the end of when they invaded the South after the Americans had left, there were some, I believe, I remember some Americans saying when they killed some, they were talking about MVA, they'd killed it at one of the battles, and they were saying a lot of the Northerners were a bit more darker skinned than some of the Southerners, but I went for this because that's what I was looking at. I took them, all the faces, I took tones, I took from a load of guys on that famous picture of the tanks going into the presidential compound, I believe, in Saigon, and I just took all the colours from there, and they were a lot lighter skinned, and you know, obviously I put a slight shine to them, and that's what I've gone with. But you can obviously make them dark yourselves. These are grenades, by the way. This is rice. Yeah, lovely figures. When I've actually got some funds, I mean, I'm gonna send off. They've got a mule with the metal mule with as in a metal sculpt with a recoilless rifle on that the Marines were using in Hue a lot, and I believe it even comes with a separate. Not sure if it comes with a separate one or if it's just showing you can have one or the other, and a couple of crew that Paul had sculpted. So I'm going to get that along with, well, with probably some Marines again, or I don't know. I just love him painting Vietnam. Vietnam is one of the things I'm really interested in. Now these guys come from Full Metal Jacket, I believe. They did a character pack. Obviously just prime. Now these are done with my lacquer primer. This is the guy that's come from whatever Marine. I've only ever watched it once. It's weird. I'm not that into Vietnam films because I find them quite caricatured, if that makes sense. I just prefer, and it's even hard watching some of these history documentaries. The Australian one I've mentioned, that is really well done, but some of the others I just find even that they're always using reenactors and stuff, and it just gets a bit lousy, really. And the films, as I say, Vietnam films, are all, you know, war is hell, all the Americans are on drugs, you know, then you got your crazy American with M60, you know, it's all a bit caricatured for me, and I don't watch a lot of them. I prefer reading about them when I can, but I do obviously watch watch footage of the time, if that makes sense. So yeah, he's one of the characters. I have no idea who. You guys will probably know them. He's the reporter guy though, for is it Stars and Stripes or the Marine version, if there is one. Another guy. I know I've seen him because I play a lot of, of course I do, Vietnam era music. You know, set to often people put the you know, the Hueys and everything going on to the music, and I often have them blasting away. And there's one that's got Surfing Bird on when they're in Hue, and all these guys are talking to the camera like as a bloke walks past. You'll know the one I'm on about. So I have seen them, I just don't know the names of any of them. You know, is that you, John Wayne, and all that stuff. So this is the black guy. There's a lot more. There's a lot more on these guys. I'm going to really enjoy painting the different webbing on these. Helmet's got a lot on them as well. Again, you see the black. It was just, I hate paint's so expensive now, like everything else, and I just hated the thought of even though I'm using a wet palette, I like to use a paint up if I can. So yeah, that's why there's this guy. I never normally put flesh on it. I prefer painting the flesh last, because I tend to think that when I'm painting the flesh early like this, and this is just a base coat again, I've just got one last little bit. I was hoping to get all three figures done of it, but really realistically could just get one. This is a base coat, and I just if I do all this face and the arms and everything, I know I'm going to get green paint and everything all over him. So I've already got base over the base coat of the rifle. So although he's really quiet at the moment, but Nugget has been going berserk this morning, trying to bite the computer cables and you name it, bite me, which he does on regular occurrence, and with my wife. It's just a pup for you at the moment. He just wants to chew everything. So yeah, I hope that's been of interest. And Joachim and Marcus, don't mind me showing the other figures, because these are the ones for the group build. Reconnaissance theme. These will be on jungle bases to a degree. I mean, I've only got, obviously, it's not dioramas, it's a 30mm base, so just like the Huey ones I'm doing for the Marine Corps, there's only so much you can put on. It's just to give you a feel. I've got some, I'm going to try an idea later on, hopefully, just to test my theory out of making some jungle type plants. I know people do the fish tank ones, but these guys, I'm hoping, because of the bases, before for the MVA, I've just stuck the tufts that I've made myself, and obviously there's grass, but you can't really do the elephant grass very well. You can't, and all the different type rubbery type trees and all that stuff that they've got out there. So I'm hoping that I've got an idea. It'll just mean putting some work into it. If you wanted the flesh tone for the Australian I just showed you, I will bring him up again. I'll give you a couple of ideas. Is that it, Gav? Yeah, that's it. Right. This is a base colour. So you have to write on them, because the things with these AK ones and the Vallejo, the label with your sweat on them, grease, whatever, comes off. But this is base flesh from AK, and they were painted with base. And then, because I swap things around. Also, you don't know, if you want a lighter colour, I use this a lot as well, beige red. Those Lunch Connects I'm doing have got beige red on them at the moment as a base, rather than this darker one. But then into the I then use orange tan again from AK, and I then start mixing radiant fleshing again from AK, and I do that until I'm happy with what I've got, and then I mess it all up in a way by putting different reds and like amaranth orange, as I've said before, and I will tone the flesh then I'll go back over again one last time with just neat radiant flesh over the knuckles and highlights over the nose and stuff. If you really wanted to, you could put some ice lemon, ice yellow I should say, on there. I still might do that. I'm undecided. I'll wait till I've done the entire figure. But that's to get like this type of orangey type tan skin, Vietnam style. I do a slight dot with an off-white, but mainly something like I'm talking for the eyes. You don't have to do the eyes whatsoever with these. Most of these sculptors and the people whose figures obviously, like say Empress, they understand people are wargaming. They don't want to be doing eyes. I always say eyes are for photographs. I do them just because I enjoy painting figures, so I try and do them, not always successfully, but that's what I do with them. But I use something like Deck Tan or silver white, and which is quite an off-white colour, and I just put that in, and then I do a tiny dot of, you can use black on that. I don't think it really matters so much. I know it's quite stark, but to be honest with you, I use whatever type of black. I've used dark brown even, just to give it's only a tiny like pupil area anyway. And if you go too much with the black dot, just try and drop a bit, and I'm talking a tiny bit of the white colour again, back in just one corner of the eye. You don't have to do both sides, just one corner, and that'll just give an inflection that there's a you know, an eyeball there. But again, you don't have to. Just put a darker, like that dark base colour in, and if I was to do that, I would get some of the darker red. I've used wine red, heavily watered down to stain. I always do it near the wrists, and I don't know why. It's not. I'm looking at my own wrists. It's not as if they're that colour particularly. It's a bit arty farty, but it just gives you some tonal you know what I mean, some tonal colours. And I do them under the cheeks, and I do them usually around a helmet, or in this case a hat, literally around the top, you know, around the ears and stuff, and around the brim of the hat. So yeah, just do that, and you'll find that, you know, you should get a nice look to him. So thank you very much, everybody. Sorry if I've waffled on. I just fancy putting a video up because I've been doing the commission. I've not had a lot of time doing other stuff. So and also, obviously, I said to somebody I know that's just had a pop. I said I feel like General Custer surrounded by the Indians at the moment, except for I'm surrounded by one furry little Indian that's flying around. So it is at the moment, as I thought it might be. It's just a case of you know, getting videos done when I can do them. I've not been able to do any modelling of such at the moment because you're literally having to stop him chewing everything in sight. I have been working on Lanch Connects. I was going to show you him on a later, and I've got a couple of paint ideas for you on those. So I've got another 3 or 4 of those painted actually. I've just got 2 more to do, and then we'll have a Lanch Connect update, and then I'll be switching over because I'm trying to get the Lanch Connects painted because I'm going to try and sell those. I will switch over to probably Bavarians because they've been sat they've been sat in boxes. There's some on the desk. They've been sat around for literally about 18 months or a year and a half. I have no idea, and they're nearly all finished now. They really need just basing, and going to try and sell those on, and I've got a couple more of these guys ready to start as well. Just going to finish. There's a couple of little bits on the officer I've got to finish. So yeah, there's plenty going along. It's just my painting time's been sucked up by doing paid painting, and obviously just, you know, looking after Nugget really. You've got to be on your toes with him. And as a fat old bloke these days, I realise I'm not as fast as I used to be in trying to corral him. He's more or less gone through the garden like a combine harvester. There's hardly anything left. He's only is he 9.5 weeks? I don't think he's 10 weeks yet, and he's throwing himself in the pampas grass and you name it. It's my wife made some raised borders with those half rounds on wire, you know, that you can make borders out of, and she's had those for years. He dug down one when my back was turned and dug underneath. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. Almost 10 weeks. Right. Anyway, you don't want to hear pop talk. Please go out and check all the other videos, and I will have I was going to say that are in the Reconnaissance group build. I'm sorry I've not been putting the Reconnaissance group build thing up on the front. I've got no idea. But please go and check those guys out. Check out Joachim and Marcus's channel because their links will be in the description. They'd greatly appreciate a viewing and a sub if you'd like to do that. And please go and check out the long tam video. It's actually put up by the company, I believe, that made it. So, you know, I would strongly urge you to go and see that, learn a bit about Australian. They were, as I say, they're in Phuk Toi province, and they were operating out of Nui Dat, and I think it's a cracking documentary, interlaced with the you know, the actors like you know, interlaced with a lot of that CGI stuff and that, but you've got the real guys that were there talking about it, and obviously a voiceover and stuff. It really is a cracking. I think it won a load of awards. So there'll be a link to that, and I'd strongly urge you to watch that. Just to see courage under fire, and it doesn't have to be Australians. It could be anybody, but to see how guys react, and how when you're absolutely on your chin strap, and it is like the Battle of the Little Bighorn for a small company-sized unit, and you're hanging on by your teeth, and you're surviving because New Zealand and Australian batteries are firing in your support right into your front. You've got American 155s firing in your support further down, and they wanted to fire closer, but the Australian main brigade headquarters, I believe, were a bit iffy about bringing 155s that close to the infantry, but they did sterling service as well, keeping blokes alive out there. Then the Royal Australian Air Force dropping ammunition in amongst literally thunderstorms, chucking down a rain, can't see anything. The enemy popping smoke to try and confuse, obviously the ammunition drop. It's just and then the cavalry coming in with the M13s, APCs, and everybody, just supporting each other, and it's amazing. It's an amazing tale. I mean, Americans fought a lot. I'm not taking away from the Aussies. Americans fought a lot larger battles, a lot more casualties, but for a small country with a small, had a couple of battalions at that time in, along with the Kiwis. And I will be doing some painted ads. They'll look the same because they were dressed in the same uniforms, but I will be saying these are Kiwis because they often get, in the shadow sometimes, I think, from people on the outside looking in to the Australians. So the next lot will be Kiwis that I paint. If you've got the time, or just watch it in parts, please go and check out the Long Tan, because it'll be in the memory of the lads that lost their lives at Long Tan. So thank you very much. Look after yourselves, and we'll catch each other very soon on another video.